Hello, sweet sounds. When you are hearing this, wherever you're hearing this, my name is Big Mood, aka Eli Plunkett. I'm here doing an interview with a friend of Sweet Sounds, Michelle. I have been looking forward to this interview since we got it set up because apparently we had the chance to meet or had met, and we both forgot at Firelights Festival, and now allegedly the rooftop takeover with Gradient Perspective in DC. So there was two different opportunities where we probably could have chatted, and it didn't work out. Like most, like most festival uh, friendships that could be, if you don't hook up and talk right then and there, they're just gone to the ether forever. So it's kind of crazy that somehow our paths have crossed for a third time, allowing a chance to talk. So, first off, when we met or could have met at Firelights Fest, that's in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, for those of you who don't know, which Sweet Spot Sounds will be back at this year. Uh, what were you doing? And also, hi Michelle. Would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hello, my name is Michelle. I work with District.wav in DC. Um, just as a quick little intro, and to answer your question about firelights, we pretty much just went up to check the festival out. It was for a great cause. All the money was going to a local fire station. There was great music. Not much to complain about.
Absolutely.
But,
An amazing festival for a first year festival like that. It was awesome. So you mentioned District Wave. That's out of DC?
yeah, so
Okay,
we
yeah, District Wave. Hit me with some info because I don't know too much about them as much as like Gradient Perspective, who I know you're also a part of. So, yeah, what's District Wave's deal for all of
uh,
us?
so District Wave is kind of a little melting pot of things right now. We have a record label side where we try to release music in the local area just to get it out to listeners, and just give artists a platform to get more reach um, with their tracks. And we are also working on becoming a nonprofit.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
and from the start, we've been focusing on how to connect the music with the community, especially post COVID. Everyone's just been in isolation and just kind of trying to bring the vibes back in that sense.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. There's a need for that right now.
yeah. And we recently also started some harm reduction efforts at all of the Gradient Perspective shows,
Oh, wow.
and would like to start helping out other local companies with that as well.
Okay, cool. So yeah, harm reduction or like festival safety in general is like in
Yeah,
the wheelhouse too. That's really cool. Yeah, it sounds like District Wave and Sweet Sounds have a lot in common. I see why they put us in touch.
right.
Um,
Just everyone we've been meeting through doing all of
yeah,
this, everyone's just pretty much on the same page. So it's been
for,
really
for
cool.
sure. Yeah, sharing, I think like all the sharing in the community right now is so important because yeah, like right now with labels and stuff, it's really hard to get things out if you're not just, one track on a compilation album, if you're lucky.
Mhm.
Having a big what do you call it, even a megaphone for artists, you know what I mean, to just get their stuff out there is handy and necessary.
Yeah. We've also been able to do that with the rooftop takeovers that Gradient Perspective allows us to do.
Okay, what are those about?
So when you guys came down with Sweet Sounds, that was like a Sweet Sounds takeover. And at each rooftop, we have our little booth set up where we collect donations for some charitable organization, either local, or we've even done stuff like the American Heart Association for a Not Low show.
I remember seeing you set up in the dark, shady corner of a bar asking
Yes.
for donations. Yeah, okay, yep, I remember. Yep, that sounds exactly like the type of startup stuff we love. Yeah, that's awesome. I do remember seeing. I make it sound so dark. It wasn't actually that dark. It was beautiful in there. There's like a disco ball and stuff.
A massive disco.
Don't let me do that to the reputation. Uh, but yeah, I actually do. And now that's ringing bells when you're like, yeah, we have a table set up. I was like, I remember in the corner now. That's awesome. So yeah, those work with different organizations. Do they work with you in the sense, or do you just kind of surprise them?
Um, so we kind of just pick one. Sometimes we'll talk to the artist and be like, hey, is there something that resonates with you that you guys would like to us to collect donations for?
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so we're kind of open to everything. Like when we did the Super Task show, I'm pretty sure we collected money for I think it was Holistic Life Foundation, and they do
Okay.
like meditation and mindfulness for youth, and
Well,
everyone loved
that's
that.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's perfect for these shows.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna throw money into that, and they're like, "Can I enroll?" Oh. So you said festival safety was a thing. Do you have interest in District Wave? I guess maybe we should clarify too. Is your position in District Wave? Is there like a solid position? Is everyone kind of running it like a co-op? What is the
Um, so I would say District Wave is a huge team effort um, because we are starting off as a nonprofit. No one's really gaining much out of it, so it's all just volunteer work pretty much. And most of our friends have been more than supportive with all of it. We have people who just want to help work the table all the time. And
wow?
with these harm reduction efforts that we're trying to implement, um, so at these shows we have had Narcan, fentanyl testing strips, and even COVID tests available for free at all of our shows for the last couple shows.
That's awesome. That
There
needs
was
to be a
actually an
staple.
organization. Yeah, there was an organization that we did collect money for. They're called Bread for the City, and
Okay. Oh, it's like feeding bread.
oh yeah,
I
Bread
was
for the
like
City.
bread, BRED, or gotcha.
um, they kind of cover a lot of issues in DC, and basically they've been this endless resource for us to get Narcan and all of these resources for free,
Really?
pretty
That
much.
is so cool. Shouts
Yeah,
out to them.
yeah, Bread for
What
the
was
City.
Bread for the City? Okay.
Mhm.
Bread for the City. Major shout out to them because that is one thing that I know this talk and another talk that we'll be having with Sweet Spot Sounds is going to be pretty much like we talk on, harm reduction and this festival scene, especially now that things are wild and opening back up and I think people want to go harder than ever. um
Yeah.
Safety is now more important than ever, especially, I mean, the curse word, the Voldemort of the scene, fentanyl being around is just like a whole nother issue that, if we can find a way to get testing into festival grounds, it would be
Mhm.
potentially huge. So
If people want to indulge, we want them to indulge safely.
exactly. Yeah. We're not here to say do or don't or, promote by any means. It's simply safety and the freedom
Yeah.
to have that choice, whether or
Mhm.
not, you want to test it or not, which you want to test it. Don't play with that. Um, so really what it sounds like though is the community behind Gradient and District is both kind of like what helps push it forward and what keeps it afloat, which I think we're familiar with here. How how did you think that District Wave first started going about getting maybe like some of the support from both the community and stuff? Because it's obviously not starting with throwing up tables like first things first. How would someone get that foot in the door, and like how did you get your foot in the door there?
So basically, around 2019, 2020, um, we had this idea to it was honestly Be Interactive inspired,
Mm-hmm.
um, where we had friends who were ambassadors and they would get money to go collect cans and stuff and donate it to their local organizations and stuff like that. And we're like, hey, that's a really cool thing. And in DC, living in DC for the last couple of years, um, what you see in the city can get pretty rough. And for us, it's just being in any place of privilege that we have to be able to help those who did not get the necessities that they needed along the way. Um, it's a pretty big stance that we've just kind of always had. And we did our first show in March of, or actually, it was Valentine's Day of 2020. We called it Heart
Wow.
Attack. Emphasis on the art and the heart. So it was like
Okay,
a
and
play
not
on
the attack part.
that. um, and it was a free show. We had a clothing donation drive, and we like packed out this little bar. It's like a skate shop slash vegan spot slash bar. It's called Spacey Cloud Lounge down in Adams Morgan, and it went swimmingly. We
Yeah,
did not.
that sounds like the greatest place to start.
Yeah, it was a huge turnout and it was absolutely magical. And then March came around and the pandemic hit, and our next show was in April. So all of that just kind of was.
And the magic went away and it was gone forever. Yeah, that's exactly. It's so crazy to me that some of the like coolest underground scenes and most supportive scenes end up coming from something like, yeah, we talked to people at a Whole Foods punk rock venue. Uh it's always like some weird like vegan donut shop, and like they're the ones who run the entire underground scene,
The
behind the
best.
scenes. It's like crazy. Before coming even to like the electronic scene, I was pretty heavy with the punk scene in the Midwest, and that was always what it was. It was like, your local barista was also the guy who owned the hardcore store down the street that does free shows for all ages or something. It's
Mhm.
like it was always just some crazy synchronicities that brought, all these people together, and it was from like places you wouldn't expect. So that's absolutely crazy. There's parts of like, obviously, since it's nonprofit, it's kind of just considered philanthropy because it's your time. You're spending all of your time to, do all this stuff, and it's charity work. So start focusing more on the philanthropy and charity side. How does one get in the door there?
So we just kind of started doing it, and we knew. So the Gradient Perspective, they started doing a decent amount of shows once the pandemic started easing up. And we basically went and talked to them. We're like, hey, your first DC show, can we just collect donations for like a local charity and just
Just
donate some
spoke
money? Like,
spoke to someone who ran the show and just kind of got in that way, and they didn't even
yeah.
no questions. Yeah, I love that.
We like showed up a lot for our friends and what they were doing. It's just like when you believe in your friends and everyone's going and just has this vision in mind, it just creates an incredible community, I think.
It's a lot of momentum behind one
Yeah.
idea, and a
So
lot
we
of
just kind of
energy.
thought it was like a one-off thing. We're like, okay, like it was just this one thing, and
Wow, that
here,
was fun. Maybe
yeah.
we should do it again.
I'm like, oh, can you do one at your next show? And then we were just kind of expected to run it from
Then they're like,
that.
yeah, every Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah. Um, it was a little hard to keep up at first, but it's been a lovely journey.
Has it been growing perspectively, or like, in correlation with like the amount of work you're doing, or have you found that like people are starting to get swamped, or
Um, Currently, I would say it's still manageable, but when we want to do things like the harm reduction stuff, Um, we
Takes
even
people
want
power.
we even want to have people in the crowd, just like if girls are feeling uncomfortable or if someone just looks like they're not having a good time, just to have our people in the crowd and just keeping an eye out for those types of things and either doing something about it or letting someone know.
Hmm. Yeah, the incognito community member has been a staple of festivals since, like Woodstock days. There's always someone, out there looking just to help you, and that's an amazing experience. So yeah, District Wave, if you wanna help these folks out next time you see them at a show, I'm sure they'll slap a T-shirt on you and tell you to go watch out for people, which you should do the good work and do
Which would be
anyway.
really cool.
Shirt or no shirt, you should be helping people.
Yeah, for sure. In general.
So with District Wave, how many have you been doing? A lot of shows since kind of the reopening, I would say, but it's a loose opening.
I would say there's roughly at least two gradient shows a month, and we also get asked to do our booth at other local shows as well. So I would say typically like three to four even.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So yeah, not all the shows even are for Gradient, they're for other people. That's really cool. Other people are hearing the good word.
Yeah, like, and especially with the harm reduction stuff, we would be more than happy to go to people's events and just be able to provide resources.
That's awesome. That would be beautiful. Imagine just walking in on other people's parties and being the safety. So a lot of experiences. Let's just narrow down. What are some of like the most memorable things that you've had happen with District Wave? Is there anything that really like was like, wow, that was favorite encounters? Any people? Any crazy donations?
um,
Any story of saving a guy's life?
Honestly, all of it together has just been honestly a little overwhelming. Just the amount of love and support from the communities and our friends have shown up for us so much. Most of our closest friends are usually our like biggest donors.
That's insanely beautiful. I hear I'm looking for a story of tale and woe, and you break my heart with some love. That was awesome. um, so let me see. With District Wave and Gradient Perspective, what exactly do you think the future for this type of work is? Like, maybe for one or the other, but since you're part of both, I know they go hand in hand very well. So I kind of have a hard time differentiating, between the two because District does the good promotional and love work, and the Gradient's more like the label side, which is,
So,
a good blend.
Gradient works with two other companies, Para Presents and Closed Sessions, and they're actually the ones that bring the show to DC.
Okay. And
So
Gradient is like puts on
yeah,
the
so
event
it's like
coordinator.
a triple effort there between Para, Closed, and Gradient Perspective.
Wow.
And then we kind of just help with the promoting and then just kind of troubleshooting through the show if need
Hmm.
be. Um, just like a boost of helping hands, pretty much.
It's crazy how much goes on behind the scenes where it needs. Yeah, your favorite artist coming to town took 80 people's jobs to do that. So be appreciative, people. uh, so let's do a little drift but into some of the stuff that you just do outside of work. I know that our friend Mia from Sweet Sounds here and from The Spear was talking about a wellness brand or something that was popping up recently. What's this about? What do you
I
what you
think
doing?
that is about my little soap company that I
Is that
started.
about Simply Mush? Is that what?
I think so, Simply Mushy.
Oh, that's so cute.
Basically, during the pandemic, people were like, you gotta wash your hands. So I was like, I think soap.
You
is
got in
something.
at the top, soap business. Other people are down here with toilet paper. You're like, wash your hands.
Oh man, what a crazy time that was. Um,
So you started getting into it at the beginning of the pandemic, just like right off the bat?
it was just kind of like a little hobby at first, because I used to work in the medical field before I was doing a lot of this music stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'd be constantly washing my hands, and my hands would really be going through it. And then
Yeah.
when the pandemic came around, it was just awful. And um, we had a family friend that they also made some like natural homemade soaps. And I was like, wow, this is cool and makes my skin feel nice. So,
What I see is your empathy of being a doctor practically over here was transferred into being
I didn't
a
go that
soap maker.
far.
Like, I need to care for people, and now the best way is to clean them. So it was originally a hobby you just liked that you did like for yourself, or did you originally start it off by being like, I'll just sell these to my friends?
Yeah, it was more so of that. I was like, this is a nice thing to make available to people. I need to not just eat all my costs pretty
Yeah,
much, and it's kind of how it came about.
fact. So it's just a little bit of coverage on that end.
Yeah, pretty much.
High end goals of it. Where can soap go with this? Do you want to do more than soaps? Do you trying to just like expand into just like marketing these soaps?
So I that is a really good question.
What's the
Um,
future of your soap business? Have you thought about it yet?
so they're in Korea, they make some crazy soap and they have crazy designs. It's just they can basically make a painting on
Yeah.
a, a block of soap, and it's so crazy. And I've been trying to learn their methods and stuff because that's not that common around here, and I think it'd just be like a cool thing
We get
to
impressed by a swan on a latte. So like
put a
that's
swan in your soap.
yeah, imagine, you got the you got the creation of man, the fingertips touching or
Oh
whatever, the
yeah,
creation of Adam.
that'd be
um
hilarious.
so uh are you a generally, I'm assuming with the type of work you do, would you consider yourself like a moderately spiritual person? Do you have spiritual practices? Are you more of like a meditation person? Are you just kind of like, I wake up and I'm good?
I think that that third option currently is
There's no
kind of
harm in that.
my mindset. However, it took a while to get here.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up with a blend of like Christianity and Buddhism in my life,
Hmm.
and definitely saw the consistencies in both, where it's just pretty much just try to be a good person while you're here.
Hmm. I
Um,
I love that. Yep. It's a beautiful crossover when you get familiar with both of those two. It's really fun to go back and, look at some of the Christian upbringings that I think a lot of people had under that lens. And if you got to grow up with both of the lenses, that's a really nice place to be because yeah, the
yeah.
crossovers and like you don't immediately get misconstrued, I think, because you see where they overlap and
Mm,
you can rein it in a bit from like some of the crazy paths you can take on either side.
for sure. Um, and when it comes to spirituality, I do think it's very important to be grounded, because currently everything around is just so overwhelming and so hectic. Um, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world right now, and
Hmm.
they're not the most pleasant of things.
And not easy to deal with, and anyone who's saying it is selling you short.
Right. And I think pretty much everyone is in the same boat, whether or not they want to really admit to how much we are all just kind of struggling and going through it.
I think yeah, what I see is that it's whether or not you're putting your awareness on it, it's happening to everyone. And that's exactly, then if you're not aware enough to watch the awareness, then like you don't know that you're participating, but everyone right now is going through it.
Yeah.
The
So
hardest it.
um I went to Yonderville
Okay.
last summer,
Where's that
and
at?
it was in, I'm gonna say, West Virginia. It was
Nice.
very close to the edge of Maryland where they
Oh,
live.
okay, cool.
It wasn't too far away. I think it was roughly like a 3 hour drive. So
It was over
it was
Yonderville.
good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll see myself out. This podcast is over.
We plan on attending again this year because it was just a very beautiful festival in general. And uh, our friend Mercury played at Yonderville last year, and
Oh, the artist Mercury.
mhm,
Okay,
um,
cool. I was
at
like, is that
the
someone's name? That's a really pretty name.
um, he did a sound bath at the
I
end
heard
of
about this. I heard about this online.
and it was a really lovely experience. He just had everyone sit down and he just stopped for a second, and it was incredibly grounding just because you're just like in that moment and there. Um, Before going to Soundhaven, we stopped at his house and he did a little personal sound bath for an hour for me and three of my friends. And it
That,
was a
oof.
really nice experience. Before we did it, he took us outside. We were barefoot and he was like, just, you guys been traveling, just stop moving for a second. Just
That's yeah, that's
find
the
stillness.
groundedness is insanely huge, especially at festivals. I feel like it's easy to feel like, you're super present because of all the things going on that like you're like, I'm grounded. Obviously, I'm here and I'm enjoying myself. But I've made it a habit to every time I pull up to a festival as I'm putting up tent, I just go ground it barefoot, I was like set up the tent, do it barefoot because yeah, you're usually after like a 8 hour car ride or something, and like it's so nice to just sit like that. And yeah, the Mercury sound bath, that actually sounds really cool. Mercury sound bath. Um but that sounds amazing, especially with like I know most of us are festival goers that listen to this, so like they understand that you have tens of thousands of dollars of equipment in sound gear pumping the purest tone at you, and like
Right.
that's much different than putting on the Spotify abundance healing frequency and putting it in your headphone, like
Mhm.
um it's extremely powerful and like invisible and
Right. The
ground
vibration.
grounding such a good word for that. Imagine just seeing an entire festival of people sitting down like that's brings a tear to my little hippie eye. Without Mercury, what do you do to stay grounded?
So, what he said to me and had us do before that personal sound bath that he gave us was we just are constantly moving, and that just applies to everyone, especially being in DC. Everyone is always going somewhere, everyone's always in a rush. It kind of causes for there to be a little less friendliness and a little less communal when it's that way. Um, so that just really resonated with me in just finding stillness and just being in the moment because we can get so overwhelmed with all of the looming things that we have to do to exist.
Amen.
Um, just like taking a pause and being like, you know what, I'm breathing, I'm here, I'm doing okay. Let's pause for a second, then we'll keep going.
And that works all the time. That's a crazy life hack for everyone out there. That works all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't been a time where I've been like, I'm stressed, and then I take, 6 deep breaths and, like really ground myself, and I'm not like, I'm worse. I feel worse than I did before. Like before this podcast, even, before this podcast, I went on a little mini walk. I did a little bit of stretching. I did some breathing, like not a long routine of anything, but just like 5 minutes of each. Well, actually, the walk was longer, but, just doing little things like that because I was like, I'm up in my head. You got to get, it's like if you're up in your head, do 2, 3 grounding techniques and just, it's not all, 100%, but it's a lot better.
Yeah. And my phone also tends to get a little overwhelming sometimes. So just being able to
It's really
detach
hard to,
for a little.
I'm assuming your work is a lot around the phone too, with promotion
Yeah.
stuff,
I
communication.
honestly dislike social media a lot,
I
but
think a lot of
my
us do.
life revolves around it right now, and it's been interesting how
It's
that's
so crazy that we have to use this little devil that, we know, like in our, we're holding it and we're like, I don't even feel good doing it. Like we just have to. It feels weird. Like it used to be, we're like, man, I can't live without my phone. And now that's like to a certain point where you're like, I just want to hit it with a hammer.
yeah,
I,
half of how my day goes typically.
spending time away from the phone, touching grass, with your bare feet, breathe a little bit of air.
Fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of good tips that can get you out of that headspace that we find ourselves in a lot. Um,
Life
what
is always hard. Don't be your own enemy.
Yeah, yeah, say that one for sure. Don't be your own enemy because you got plenty of them out there.
Life's already hard enough. Just don't make it harder on yourself.
Right. I I
And
I
find people
love,
who help you with that.
yes, I think it's really important that your community is not only someone who's um hoping for you to better yourself, but they have to be proud of where you are right now. Like it's fine to have friends that are always being like, you can do this, you can do that, you can be better, but it's like if they're also not, like praising what you're on right now and acknowledging that like grind, I guess, so which I hate the word, but acknowledging that grind that everyone's on is like, it's not a great set of friends. You got a good set of friends if they want you to be better, that's pretty good, but if they're not also celebrating you, that's a good way to quickly detach yourself from, not be grounded for sure. A
There's
sense of
no
community.
necessity for gatekeeping. I think it's
Ooh,
cool to have everyone succeed.
yeah, yeah. If someone else wins, you win because you are them and all that,
Right.
if you're hurting someone else, you're hurting yourself. And same when you're talking bad about yourself, like Lord knows
And
in
that's
an,
the worst.
yeah, Lord knows in an example, like if we were just beating ourselves up before a podcast, neither of us are going to talk good. Neither of us are going to think highly of what we do. And
He's
that's,
like, oh no, should I do this?
yeah, like it doesn't help anyone. And then, the message comes out unclear and no one benefits. Um, so besides District.wav, the soap, gradient perspective, what else do you like to do? You said we were talking festivals earlier. Do you have a particular type of festival that you favor, like regardless of, if you're going with the squad or not? Like where do you want to go as like a festival? So there's like an aesthetic, you know. So like a Tomorrowland, or is it more like a Lost Land?
um, Honestly, I've been to some pretty big festivals
I saw.
like EDC New York, Bonnaroo. I'd say even Electric Forest is a pretty big sale. I'd say Electric Forest is a good one. That's kind of been home for a while.
I think that
And
one tickles the fancy of my aesthetic too.
yeah, it's just, I've met so many incredible people there, and it's just uncanny how beautifully things tend to work out there specifically sometimes. Um,
Yeah,
so we
festival
like to
friends always uncanny. The fact that we're even talking.
right. So we kind of like to say that the simulation likes to glitch in the forest a little bit.
Things like to really synchronize when you're there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of energy in one place too, of a lot of good energy.
Right. But forest is really big. after going to some smaller festivals like Firelights, Yonderville, even the first year of Wakan was just very
Yeah.
low key in its own way. It was a homey fest, to put
Yeah.
it in a
Like
phrase.
intimate. It was pretty intimate. Yeah, it's like a word that I like to use just when
Yeah.
it's you and like 20 people 5 feet from a DJ, you know? It's like,
Yeah. There was like the sunrise set at 7 a.m. There were like 20
hmm.
people there, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've experienced.
Always a big Sunrise fan. They're always just insane. I had seen I didn't get the chance to go see because I was sleeping through most of the morning experience, but the very first festival I went to was Infrasound and it was Tipper doing a
Ooh,
sunrise and I was like, "Are you
ooh.
kidding me? Like that's your introduction to a festival is that?" Like I was like
Yes, really.
I couldn't be more blessed, you know. I was like that was the first way and I didn't know, you know, I didn't know what I was because I was a little newbie kid, so like I didn't see like I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, some old guy's gonna get on the stage. Much love to Dave. Just some old guy scratching some records. When's the jazz gonna come on? Yeah, it's crazy. The synchronicities that happen at festivals are really insane because you end up meeting some people and then like 8 years later seeing them at another place and you're like, I know you from your furry tail or what? You've got that wizard hat.
Yeah, traveling around and sometimes just running into the same people over and over again just honestly gets a little questionable.
Like, are you a character? This is not possible. Like, this
Are
is
you
you're an NPC for sure. Would you just give me my quest line and go away? That's crazy. What's like a what's we're getting a little near a good time to start wrapping up. What's a good festival story you have? Was there anything from all these fests that you have, whether it be good or absolutely scarring?
Oh
I could
man,
even probably share one or two.
I the bad I think through festivals would be just seeing things that you might not really want to see, but might be expected by inebriated individuals at these events. Which is also why we have just put such a heavy emphasis on just trying to get people to drink some water and take care of their bodies. Enjoy the music, you know? We're not here
Hmm.
for that long, so don't do anything to shorten that time.
Absolutely. I think there's probably two ways I could have taken that statement. At first, I was like, ah, yes, we do have a lot of people exposing themselves at these festivals when you're like, don't want to see certain things that they shouldn't have to see. It's like,
I
yeah, there's a
only
lot of
take it as a
involuntary
fan.
exposure. You definitely get to
I'm
see
just
some
a
things you didn't,
fan.
some things you didn't consent for. But
um,
that's buying the ticket.
I would just say that coming into this community really helped me personally find my individuality and just who I want to be to myself, not even to anyone else in this world. Like, what do I want to do in this time? Um, this community is just a little more open minded than some other communities in this world. And I think that opens the gate for a lot of possibilities and options for people to discover about themselves.
Agreed. Yeah. The first toe I ever dipped into a festival, it was gone from there. You know what I mean? Like it was a different world. It was like, all right, well,
Here's
I didn't.
another there.
Yeah, I expected a 3 day concert, which I've been to 100 of. You know what I mean? Like whatever. And it's like, no, life changed after that. It wasn't. I didn't go back. It didn't go the same after that. I was like, oh, this is a community I can really vibe with. Like
Mhm.
um, I did a lot of community hopping. Also, I think a lot of us do finding, as you grow up, trying to find which little niche you fit in. And I was like, that one's good. This one's good. I was a little, like this one's too hot. This one's too cold. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting at a festival. And I'm like, this is just right.
This feels
Is,
good.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think everyone's so supportive. Like, obviously, toxicity is everywhere, so you can't say it's
Right.
100%. But it's like, for the most part, I don't run into people here that are super toxic, and um, that kind of comes with which festivals you decide to go to too, and like which crowds you're bouncing with.
Yeah, I think that the pandemic also was a nice little reset for the
Cleaned
music
up the act.
industry. Specifically, um, I just really haven't come across anyone as of late who isn't on the same page as to what goals are trying to accomplish with everything in the community involved just as a whole.
That's pretty true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
been
think
really cool to see.
yeah, I think outside perspective, yeah, that is what I think that's what we're seeing. I'm also seeing a lot of embrace, like I know more in the Midwest scene over here. I'm seeing a lot of embrace for the smaller venues again. People playing at distilleries and coffee shops and like bringing the whole system into there rather than looking for a system to house 10,000 people. It's become much more like, yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, DC lost U Street Music Hall.
Oh, is
During
that a
COVID.
is that a
It
venue
was,
that you've had?
yeah, so this, it was basically the hub for the underground, I would say, for electronic music, but they had all types of music there, bands and whatnot, just all types of genres. And like I've even been there for like a Moombaton night, just randomly out with some college
That's so
friends.
fun.
It was lovely.
I can't
um,
imagine.
but they unfortunately didn't survive. So it's been a little bit dry for venues, which is why it's been cool to have these gradient shows at Flash,
Yeah.
just to get that really going because we really only have like Echo Stage and Soundcheck and 9:30 Club. The anthem is way too big for anything that we'd be trying to do.
Yeah,
So
Flash is insanely well fitting for I think the scene and for like the literal like literal underground, but it's above ground, but literal underground
yeah,
shows of like pretty much just, you feel like you're in a basement even when you're standing there and it's in the nicest way.
it
I
gets
mean that with
very
love. I mean that with love. I love a basement show.
Um, there's also been this really cool venue. It's a warehouse and it's a little bit close to Echo Stage, but it's not going to be around for that long, I don't think. So
Yeah.
it's been
We
cool to
love
have
a
a warehouse.
pop-up warehouse.
So we're going to have shades there on Cinco de Mayo,
But
and it's going to be crazy.
it's gonna be wild. It's gonna Yeah, that's gonna be so cool. Yeah, some of the acts I've seen rolling through Flash, even with the rooftop takeovers, I'm like, man, just getting to like go downstairs and like pop between the two. What a life. Get your butts to Flash if you're anywhere near the
You got
area for
two
sure.
shows in one.
It's so good.
Enjoy
The gorgeous backdrop behind the basement stage or the underground the bottom stage and then the rooftop literally like took my breath away the first time I walked up there.
Was
I
it
was like,
open when you came down?
yeah.
Okay.
Like
During the winter months, it closed up a little bit, so it was, felt more of like a greenhouse type of space.
ooh, they still had
Uh,
all the plants.
oh yeah,
That was the
and
whole thing. I was like, plants in a rave? Let's go.
when we did our first booth, we were like, we're gonna get some fake plants for our table so that we can match the vibe a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, it feels like a nursery that allowed a bop to go on.
Right.
That's awesome. What is something that's been coming up for you recently that you might want folks to know about? Something that maybe is good, something maybe that's been a struggle that you're dealing with. Just give us a little peek behind you before we, kick it over to some music and let these folks have a good rest of the night.
um, I would say that personally, it's a little bit after being cooped up for pretty much over a year, and the world is a different place now, and I think it's been interesting figuring out how to adjust to everything that's going on. Um, so I think really trying to find that peace of mind, I kind of feel like I owe it to myself to give that to myself because nothing around me will give that to me or has been giving that to me.
Ain't that the truth?
It's like so
Yeah,
weird,
look
like,
outside and get a little slice of peace.
right. So that's been something that has felt really good to find. Um, because a lot of bad things have happened in the last couple of years. We've lost a lot of good people. We've just, we went through a global pandemic. I don't even have to
Yeah.
sit here and
Yeah, we
list.
lost a lot of good people. We've lost a lot of notable people recently. Not that note makes you any more or less meritorious than, but it's like there's been a lot of people that I think meant a lot to a lot of people that recently have been going, and it's been crazy to watch the community deal with it and like go into full love mode with tribute fests. And, there's like a lot of things I think that the community brought to the table when everyone was losing their mind. Community and a little bit of solitary time in combination. Peace
Yeah,
of mind is,
I think we were taking some human interaction for granted pre-pandemic, and post, it's felt very different
mm-hmm,
to me personally, for
mm-hmm.
sure.
So a little bit of time to figure out your mind,
Right.
a little bit of reading, some listening. Do you read your books? Do you audible your books? Are you a podcast person? What do you How do you
I
consume? Do you just watch YouTube for hours like me?
YouTube is definitely my number one
Toxic.
reason.
It's toxic and we have to leave it behind.
Um, we get stuck on a channel called Life with Labradors way too much.
Lavender. I don't know if I recognize that one, but here
It's
comes a
just
rabbit
puppies.
hole.
It's just puppies,
It's
videos of
just puppies.
insanely cute puppies.
The
Too much.
algorithm's trying to push anger and you're like, puppies.
Oh, but they're so cute.
That's awesome. Yep. Okay, so the actual key to a peaceful mind is life with, what was it, lavenders?
I mean, I would say it cured my depression for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. You
Almost.
know, I've found the weirdest like 10-hour passive videos on YouTube, and I think right now my favorite is shrimps, chill shrimp to like listen to, and it's just like lo-fi beats while like shrimp swim by in an aquarium, and they got like their 8 legs, and I'm like, they're jamming, they're having a good time.
Cute.
But it kind of freaks me out because I don't really like crustaceans and like shrimp and stuff. I think
Well,
they're
who
kind of
defines of the
freaky.
ocean?
Yeah, yeah. So like,
Weird.
I think I'm also doing a little bit of immersion therapy by watching them long enough to be like, it's okay, they're creatures. They can't hurt you that we know of.
Right.
Insane. Okay, so you have a couple different social medias and a couple things that you should probably plug, allegedly. Um, where can the folks follow you before we depart here?
Um, well, I think it would be beneficial for people to follow at District.wav, W-A-V, on Instagram. Um, and the Gradient Perspective, they've just been making waves with what they've been doing. Um, and then if you guys are in need of some soap, at simply.mushy.
Absolutely. Get at her for soap. We need
Got
to clean
my
clean your act up.
website set up. Us Wooks need to take a shower sometime, I think.
There's no better gift to walk up to a campsite and hand them a bar of soap. Just bring some to your next festival.
You can smell a little nicer.
take a nice take a nice festival shower, which is just standing in the 10-minute rain.
Or like the jugs of water.
Oh yes, the classic jugs. I got blessed at my latest festival. It did rain for about 10 to 15 minutes and then cleared up, and in that time everyone poured out and was just showering in
Yeah,
the
just rubbing all the
Yep.
layers of
You just
dirt
like
off.
look around, you're like, all right, the entire park is now a communal shower place.
You're clean.
You're clean, get your ass back to the show. All right. So gradient wave, district wave, gradient perspective. Gradient's been on a wave, and that's what matters.
Yes.
Gradient perspective,
All
district
the
wave.
artists on their roster, incredible people, incredible artists.
Yeah, Sweet Spot Sounds is homies with all of them. So if you're not, you're already betraying us. So go follow. Um, if you're on this channel, I expect you're following. If not, send me a screenshot of who follows after this airs. I'll find you in the DMs.
We're checking.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you for talking.
It was lovely
Yes.
getting to do this.
Yes, it's been fun. It's been real. And hopefully we'll get you back on and we'll see you at the next festivals. You're going to be at which festivals this year so far?
Currently planned, I have
Currently.
infrasound in the works. Probably
That's my town. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Big Dub and Dreamscape are two local ones that are probably going to be at, and then Forest is on that lineup, but nothing else is really set in stone yet.
Is Big Dub and Dreamscape, they both take place in DC?
Uh, I believe in Maryland.
Oh, okay. We're pretty
Yeah,
close. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know
Big
they were so
Dub.
cloose for you.
Yeah, I think they're both in Maryland.
That is awesome. Well, hey, there's a chance I'll see it in for sound. Who knows?
Yeah,
Might get to
hopefully.
squeeze in. If not, we'll be at Firelights again this year. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again. It's been real. And we'll kick it over to some music. Shout out Sweet Spot Sounds, Sweet Sounds Collective, Maria, everyone for putting on this for us. And we'll catch you next time.